I'm GerryRagland. It's the short version. This is the long version. Just kidding. This is copies of what I wrote that will be in the Whisker Poll, which is a more longer version, but this is what my notes for tonight. I must say, after hearing these opening comments, that I need to emphasize one thing. I'm the only candidate that actually worked on the railroad. I grew up in a small railroad. Pardon? You hard to hear me? I said better. Okay. So I grew up in a small 2,000-person town in Southern Virginia that was founded in 1883 by the Norfolk and Western Railroad. And when I grew up in a working class family, so going to college, and I was the eldest of a modest, rural family. But anyway, I had to pay my own way, and fortunately, the N&W Railroad enabled me to do that because they were always hiring college boys to work in the summer because they had to have X number of crew people. Back then it was 5, now I think it's 2 or 1. And so when the regular guys were taking off summer vacations, they had to have substitutes. So I worked on the Petersburg Yard several summers for Christmas vacations. Later on in the late 60s, when some circumstances caused me to need a brief period of income, I worked on the main line from Roanoke to Crewe. So anyway, that's my railroad expense. I'm surprised to be standing here, and you probably are surprised to see me because I'm not that well known in this club. I'm relatively new, about 3 years come February, I think. And I'm an introvert, so I'm slow to get to know people, but I have been active with the day sales, the weekend sales. I am a skipper. I came in with my own boat, and I did the Grenada trip, and I'm doing the Ireland trip. So I'm new, but I've been active, and I look forward to a lot more years with SOS. So what is it about my background that might make me a valuable asset as a board member? In my young years, I did a lot of different things, and working on a railroad, school teacher, carpenter, worked at Arena Stage at a year, building sets. And then I ended up in Philadelphia, working for the Philadelphia Housing Authority. And there, I got involved in getting programs funded, writing proposals. I got money for daycare centers, although my staff convinced me to call them early childhood education, not daycare. I got funding for a senior citizens food program. Meanwhile, I was going to Temple Law School at night. It took 4 years at night. And I graduated from Temple Law in 1975. I stayed with the Housing Authority a few more years, and then went out on my own practice, and I did, last fall we had a 50-year anniversary at the law school, so it's now been 51 years since I finished law school. For 45 of those years, I was a trial lawyer. I litigated first in Philadelphia for years, and then family reasons brought me back to Virginia, moved to Northern Virginia. For a while, I kept my place in Philadelphia, and I was going back and forth. That was a hard time. And later on, I became a member of the D.C. bar, and about 10 years, no, maybe 15 years ago, I was admitted to Maryland. So I've practiced in all of these jurisdictions. I'm still licensed, except for I let my Pennsylvania license expire about 5 years ago. But I kept my license around here because I live in this area. So that's my professional background. Club experience. Up in Philadelphia, I was very active in the King of Prussia Ski Club. And that got me into sailing. That ski club got me into sailing. We would go down to the Middle River, just north of Baltimore, and twice a year, and charter a group of sailboats with skippers. It was all private guys that would take us out on the boats, but we would spend the weekend out on the boats and do some cruising. And that got me in love with sailing. And then in 1981, I bought my first sailboat. It was a Tartan 27. I put it on Back Creek, and I have had a boat on Back Creek in Annapolis ever since then. I moved up to a Tartan 34 too about 26 years ago. Maybe it's time for a bigger boat. But so I was involved in the King of Prussia Ski Club. I was involved in the 80s with the Crabdown Ski Club in Annapolis. I don't know if it still exists. But that's when I first heard about this club in the 80s. There was a friend of mine from the King of Prussia Ski Club that had moved down here, an English guy named Dick Spencer. I don't. Somebody remembers Dick Spencer? Okay. Well, Dick was a buddy of mine in the King of Prussia Ski Club. So I was involved in Crabtown. I said, Dick, you ought to just join Crabtown. We're doing a lot of sailing. He said, no, you ought to join SOS. And this was the 80s, and I think he did pitch it a bit as a singles club to me. Whether that was the true attitude of the club or not, I don't know. For many years, I was a board member for the Friends of the Torpedo Art Center in Alexandria. And for 3 years, I was president, so I have some experience in this kind of organization. I've been sailing since the mid-'70s. As a boat owner, I did all of my maintenance when I was young. I did the bottom paint, my old 27, I replaced the mast, the boom. My son and I even replaced the engine at one point. Having grown up as a son of an automobile mechanic, I knew how to do engine work. So I've now reached the point in my life where I do my maintenance with a checkbook, but I did it all over the years. After the 80s, I was mostly involved in CBYRA and racing. I loved doing the Governor's Cup. I loved night sailing and seeing the stars in a clear night. It's an experience. It's a marvelous experience. And when I did a circumnavigation of the Delmarva Peninsula back in the 80s too, and we were out in the Atlantic Ocean off the continental shelf one night on a calm, flat night with the sea was just like a lake, and we marveled at our existence on this planet and being out there. I think that's it. I joined this club because all of my other experiences it became harder and harder and harder to keep a race crew together. And a lot of the people I sailed with, how can I put this delicately? They died on me. I used to race out of the Pirates Cove in the Wednesday night races here with a buddy of mine that had an Erickson 34 for years. He's now deceased. I also used to race on the Harchie Cup back in the 80s. That was off of Galesville too. Anyway, I could go on the years. I could go on and on about the experience. I think this is. I'm not sure what that is. So I've said enough. There's a written statement that will come out of the Whisker Bowl, and I don't have a grand vision for the future of this club. I'm a newcomer. If I'm elected, I will first of all listen, study, and think, and more and more attempt to contribute. And if I'm elected, I will be actively trying to contribute my skills to whatever I can do for the club. As to the question of married versus single, I haven't given it any serious thought. I'm just hearing about it for tonight, and I wouldn't want to make a decision without really debating it or discussing it with my fellow members and fellow board members. But my inclination is, I think it would be a good idea to open to married skippers. Not, take it back, married members, not married skippers. Thank you.